Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani, and I have a long lost and found friend, my friend Mr. Edwin Baiye. That name should ring. He was the MD of Daily Times many years ago, 25 years ago. Edwin Baiye had japared to the US, and he has japada recently. Edwin, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, sir.
Welcome. You were MD of Daily Times from which year, actually?
I was MD about 2 years up to the time it was privatized. So
okay.
I was the managing director.
You saw it through the process of privatization?
Yes. Actually, we had a management company. We wanted to buy the company. So we competed with the eventual buyers of the company, but we lost out. That's a long story.
Yes.
So after we lost out, I had always said that if it didn't go through, because my wife and children were already in the US the previous 2 years. So after the BPE concluded the sale to the eventual buyers of Daily Times, I left. I retired, formally retired. I got my severance, and then for a period, I was talking to people in government at that time. They were trying to see about giving me some responsibilities. I was shortly in between Lagos, where I lived, and Philadelphia, where my family was, and then coming to Abuja on a regular basis. I did that for quite some time. When nothing appeared to be happening, I just went on a visit once, and I never came back. So for 20 years, I didn't even visit, not even to come to visit Nigeria.
20 years not to come to Nigeria. You are a stranger, actually. I mean, it's good to have you back to Nigeria. So your children actually grew up there?
Yes.
You have an army officer in the U.S. Army?
Yes. Our daughter, the older one, she's an engineer. She's been working there. Then our son, he went to the United States Military Academy at West Point. So he graduated from West Point.
Wow.
And then he was commissioned as a United States Army officer. And then he did his tour of duty, which he has completed. After completing his tour of duty in the Army, he went to do his master's program, and he's been working in New York since that time.
Thank God.
Yes.
I mean, that's a success story.
Yes.
And while you were there in the U.S.,
yes,
did you engage yourself in well, you retired from here, but what did you do in the U.S.?
Okay, so when I got there, like every immigrant who goes to the U.S., the first 1 or 2 years I was struggling to find my feet.
Yes.
And then ultimately I had an older brother who was based in Texas, still based there, and he called me and he said, look, this is the area I want you to go into, information technology. I think you will be a good fit, and that was what we did. So we lived in Philadelphia for a while, then we moved to Houston, where this older brother of mine was based, and then through his help and tutelage, did some training, and then I started working in information technology. And that was what I did. I worked for a major corporation. I started from Houston, then I moved to Columbia, Missouri, where I was for a little over a year, 2 years, and then moved to Northeast Oklahoma, where I worked for 12 years, and I retired in January of 2024. Yes.
Wow.
And then by July, decided to come back home.
I had a friend whose parents live in Norman, Oklahoma.
Okay, that's
so
closer to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, so I actually visited him in Norman, Oklahoma, and while visiting him, this was long ago, 1999 or something. While visiting him, 1989, we went to one of the Indian reservations.
Yes, yes.
They have some of those Indian reservations there.
I think Oklahoma has about the highest number of reservations we're surrounded entirely. The area where I lived and worked in Northeast Oklahoma is was actually closer to Tulsa. It's 50 miles north of Tulsa in a small town called Barrowsville, Oklahoma. That's where we lived for 12 years. That's where my son completed his secondary school. He started from Houston, completed there. My daughter had already finished. She came to complete her college, her university education in Oklahoma. And Tulsa, that area of Oklahoma, we are surrounded by Indian reservations. Yes. So if you're in Oklahoma, you're going to have interaction with Native Americans. Yes.
That's good. Yes. Now, I'm really intrigued that you were away for over 20 years without visiting home. I travel, I go back and forth, and how does it look like coming back? Because you see, many Nigerians that have stayed for 10 years, 15 years, hardly want to come back because they're asking, oh, how do you cope with NEPA? How do you cope with traffic? How do you cope with this? How do you cope with this? No, I can't go back. So how did you resolve on returning after 20, 21 years of not coming to this country? Especially as the country doesn't seem to have become better than when you left it.
That's a good question, Father. But when I came, as someone who has not lived here for 20 years, I came in. I was critically looking at what has changed, what has improved, what hasn't improved. There are areas in which Nigeria has made tremendous progress. If you look at, like I said, I worked in information technology. I look at all the businesses that are running when I go to supermarkets,
and they are all digitalized.
Yes, you see the technology, the payment systems, all these mobile payment systems did not exist.
We have it.
And they don't even exist in the US. In some places, when we went to South Africa in December, I saw that they also have it. But in the US, they don't even have
still analog in some of those places.
Yes. They don't have the technology. So in that sense, I would say that despite the challenging environment, there is electricity is very poor or non-existent. But despite all that, I see that Nigerians are still striving. I see that, look at the banks. The banks are far more sophisticated than what it was when I was here. We didn't have debit cards or credit cards when I left here. But the first few weeks before we set up a bank account, I found myself, because of inflation, carrying a bag of money, and then I felt so embarrassed going to maybe supermarket and we buy
with
stuff.
A bag of money.
Yes, and my friend who is here listening, one of those people that sometimes will go to the store, and when they mention an amount and I don't want to start counting money, I'll say, use your card and pay for me, and then I'll do transfer to him. So in that area, Nigeria has made a lot of progress. Despite the challenging environment, the fact that electricity is completely non-existent, businesses are still thriving.
So Nigerians have tried by your assessment?
Yes. In spite of the very difficult and challenging environment, I think Nigerians have tried. If you look at businesses, they find a workaround. Like here, you were telling me that you have solar energy here. Yes, and that's what's happening all over the place. Some even have all three. They have the
generator,
they have what we used to know as NEPA, they have it, and they have generator, and then they have solar. And they have all of them hooked and connected. So when I was coming, like you were asking me, how was I going to cope? Like I'm someone who sweats a lot. I can't sleep without AC. I can't. Those are some of the things I was thinking about. But by the time we came, I was thinking about the insecurity. In fact, when I was talking to some of my friends here, we were reading about all the kidnappings taking place around Abuja. But my friends said, no, if it depends on where you live, it's not as bad as they're saying in the press. And I found out that to be true. So I happen to have had good friends and family members who were guiding us through the process, so that the shock was not that much. We stayed in a hotel for the first few months, and eventually we got a flat somewhere in one of the neighborhoods in the city, and that's that. On the flip side, I see that because of inflation, things are so expensive. You know, the average.
There's no relationship between what things cost before you traveled and what is
going there now. We the first few nights we came, we're staying in a popular hotel somewhere in Wuse 2, and then on a Saturday we wanted to have dinner, and we asked for dinner, and they said, "Oh, a plate is 10,000 naira."
And you are saying 10,000.
10,000 naira. In those days, that was more than my salary. You know, that was more than what I was earning in a month. And then I thought I was earning good money. But 10,000 naira just for a plate of food, that was shocking. The rate of inflation and the rate of poverty. The fact that we still haven't been able to address the question of poverty. We haven't lifted many people. In fact, many people who were like middle class are now going into poverty because into poverty. People are not being paid. I was shocked to hear some of my friends who retired as directors in the public service
are living in poverty.
Yes, that some of what they are being paid can just pay for petrol for their vehicles.
Yes.
And not many, except some of them who have been very creative with what they have, many of them can't survive it. So some of them who live in Abuja, who are fortunate to have had their property, they are selling and moving outside the city, going back to their states, going back to the suburbs.
Because they can't survive.
Yes, so I'm shocked by the scale of poverty, and then the environment. I thought Abuja is a beautiful, well-planned city, but even in some of the so-called highbrow areas, I'm amazed at the level of filth. How much we pollute our environment. I see widespread use of single-use plastics, which was not that bad.
Which should have been banned by now.
Yes, it wasn't that bad then, but now. You know, I like the restaurant culture. I see that Nigerians, the restaurant concept has become really more sophisticated. But I don't like the fact that all of them, if you want to take food out, is plastic. It's a widespread use of single-use plastic.
Do you know that small countries like Gambia have banned it?
Nigeria should learn, because
I don't know. I still can't understand Ministry of Environmental Affairs and so on, why they still allow single-use plastics. Meanwhile, the technology is there to use paper.
Yes, you can
recycled paper as bags.
Yes,
because that's biodegradable.
Yes, you can use paper. In some places, they even want to, like when France a couple of years ago, my wife and I were having our wedding anniversary, and we traveled to France, spent a week there, and we were surprised that they didn't have single-use plastics. If they send you something, it's going to be either wooden or paper,
or
something. They just want something that is good, that is not going to mess up the environment. And given our population and everything, I'm shocked as how much filth.
We have tons and tons of plastic flying around.
Yes.
And I can't understand why till today, I mean, you are in the city. If you leave the city and go to the slums around, you have heaps, mountains of plastic. Then if there is any stream nearby, and you go to the stream, half of the stream is filled with, and you are saying, what does it take for officials of government to take a decision, one, to ban these things, and then supermarkets get some companies that will be producing a paper bag, actual paper bag, not plastic bag, but paper bag.
Yes.
I say in the Gambia, tiny little country, you cannot use plastic. If you are going to the supermarket, you have to take a bag from your home to collect what you are going to buy.
Yes. Even in some areas in the U.S., I know it's not all over, even some areas in the U.S., they encourage you. I know some supermarket chains that are like that. They will not give you, they don't give you plastic. They don't give you have to buy a bag that you can use continuously.
A bag that you can use 10, 20 times.
Yes. I had one from one of those stores that we had for years. So we don't throw them away because you spend money buying them.
Yes.
So if we can do a little bit of that and have plastic that you can keep reusing instead of just throwing them away, that would really
That would have been wonderful.
Yes.
Now, tell me, what has been your experience with, let's say, newspapers? Because between the time you left and now, newspapers have blossomed. I still remember one of the things I regret is the fact that, okay, social media has come, people don't read much papers anymore. But I remember that as far back as, let's say, 1975, the number of Sunday Times read in this country was about 500,000.
Yes.
We sold about 500,000 Sunday Times in 1975.
Yes.
But roll forward
to
to let's say the year 2000. Sunday Times may not sell 5,000.
Yes. 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 And it's unfortunately it's even worse now.
And today, put all the, let's say there are 30 Nigerian newspapers. Put all the newspapers together. I don't think 100,000 is sold.
Yes.
Today, all the newspapers.
That would be an accurate number, which is unfortunate. The rate of poverty, because people are prioritizing what's important to them. I don't see the ordinary person going out to buy newspapers.
Which used to be.
Yes.
The ordinary person, the primary school teacher, when I was in primary school, my teachers bought newspapers.
Yes.
When I was in secondary school, my teachers bought.
We used to buy newspapers.
As students.
Yes. If you have a little bit of change, you save it and buy. But on the flip side, also, there is a lot of digital
news. Yes.
News. Some newspapers have gone digital. Unfortunately, it's like an all-commerce place. Some of them just publish outright lies. They just publish. They just make stories up. They don't have any integrity. But there are a few newspapers. One here in Abuja and maybe 2 in Lagos that are still doing well, but most of the others are not doing very well.
Doing well. Yeah. So you belong to the class of Japada, comeback, and when I see people like you, what it communicates to me is that there is hope for Nigeria, because I know that it will not be only you, that many people will see that you came back and also think of coming back. With all your experience, you had experienced Nigeria up to the level of managing director of Daily Times. You went there, you saw a lot of things, and my hope is that you saw things that you can now use coming back to speak to people. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you are a resource for Nigerians that we can do better.
Yes.
And I'm sure while you were there, you were able to see things we have that we may not appreciate that we have.
Yes.
What are some of those things that are so useful for humanity, but we may not appreciate it?
You know, if you look at the difference between our children, when our children here, when they go there, it's a story that I've heard from almost all Nigerians who are there. The average Nigerian kid does way better than those who are native born there, because we have this resilience. There is a desire for performance, for education. You know, most of us, when we are there, we tell our children, look, education is not an option. Whatever is going to take you, it's not like that with the average American child. And that's why our children go there and they
excel.
They perform very well. They excel very well. So I see that focus that we have, that Nigerians are very focused. They are very resilient. You know, maybe if we can take advantage of that, take advantage of the fact that Nigerians are very resilient. They are very inquisitive. Nigerians are willing to pay the price. The average American who is born there doesn't want to go the extra mile. Nigerians are ready to burn the midnight oil just to gain knowledge. A lot of us, when we went there, we're going to school, we're getting certificates, and we're going to school with people who are about the age of our children, because we wanted to
and
make
Nigerians
life better.
Don't care. They will get it.
And then we're showing our children, we're telling them, look, if I can come here and I can make the sacrifice, if your mother can pay the price, you too can do it. You guys can excel. So that is one thing I think that Nigerians have that they don't realize that they have. This resilience that Nigerians have. If only we can tap into that, have the right type of leadership. If we have the right, Nigerians, like you were discussing earlier this afternoon, Nigerians are not asking for too much. Just a marginal improvement in the quality of life, improvement in electricity. If we finally fix the problem of electricity in this country, basic services, like make sure the roads are tarred, like
make sure people obey traffic regulations.
People obey traffic regulations, and there are consequences if they don't.
For violation.
Again, that's one of the shocking things that I've found out, that Nigerians, unlike before, at least they used to make effort. Now, they don't even care. Sometimes you're driving, you get to a junction, you are trying to stop because you have the light. People will be driving past you as if, look at this idiot, you are stopping at the light, you should be crossing it. They will be passing you by. Again, we blame leadership, but this is not only about leadership, it's about us as individuals, that we all need to resolve to make things better for our country. It's not just about what the leaders say, because when you get to traffic and you are refusing to obey, it's not because you have a bad president or you have a bad senator, it's because of your own wrong choices. So if we own up and make the right choices, Nigeria is going to become a better place. I see that people just defy basic common sense laws. I go to a junction, when people arrive, instead of stopping, looking, they just drive straight without thinking. And mostly it's because the people who are driving are not even qualified to drive. They don't go. They don't know the rules. They don't know all the regulations.
But also because there are no sanctions.
Yes.
The thing where I blame leadership is that it is not that truck pusher who has to set laws for himself.
No.
It is some leader that has to insist that if you jump red light, you will be.
There will be consequences.
Yes, consequences.
But it is, again, one of the other things that shocked me is the number of people going around in convoys. I hear that now, if you have the money, you can go to the police, just buy a vehicle, and then they put
siren.
They put siren and some amber light for you, and you'll be blowing it, and you cover your plate, and plate number, and you'll be driving around. I don't see where that happens. I can't think of any other society
Edwin,
where that
as
happens.
you have arrived now, I mean, long ago you were MD of Daily Times.
Yes.
You are entitled to, from what I see, to remove your plate number, to cover your plate number, and to have a convoy, and to have siren, and drive around. Because I have complained about this. There was a time that I told my friend Olisa Bakoba to actually take this thing to court, to get some court injunctions to stop this nonsense. How can you have a situation where just any idiot can have siren and drive in convoy around?
If you have the money, and I hear that you can actually, you register it with the police, and then they give you, sometimes they even give you personnel to accompany you. How do you run a country like that?
How do you run a country like that?
How do you run a country like that, where almost everybody now in this city, I see everyone has a convoy, and they don't, in fact, they are the worst offenders when it comes to all this traffic.
They just drive through.
When they see you at the traffic, they will be honking. Next thing, they are bypassing you, and
that is if they don't bash your car.
Yes.
I stopped at the traffic light once, and one of those came. Luckily, my glass was up. Otherwise, he took pure water and threw it at me for not going out of the way for him. Yes. So lawlessness.
Yes.
And especially executive lawlessness.
Yes.
You see, once you have executive lawlessness, that is impunity.
Yes.
Then you can then understand the lawlessness at the level of the poor people.
That's true, because if you don't show a good example at the top, it will not percolate down. Those who are in positions of leadership need to lead by example. They show that the fact that you are a leader doesn't mean that you are lording it over your people and that you are going to be lawless. You show it by good example.
Yeah. So this is it, that one, you are saying, okay, by your coming back is a metaphor for there is hope for Nigeria, right?
if you want to put it that way, but there may also have been, there are good number of other reasons. When you look at the way the world is going with the rise in racism and xenophobia in the West, so we need to start, some of us, like you said, some of us didn't think we'll come back. But in the last 5 years,
you
people
saw
have been,
the trend.
Yes, we started
and how
thinking.
I wish many others can see that trend, because if there is a constellation of forces and the resources that Nigeria has outside, UK, US, France, Canada, all of that, if some of these resources are brought to work for better Nigeria, I think that there's so much hope for this country.
I think there a lot of people are thinking. I'm on Reddit, the app Reddit, and I'm on some subreddits, and then some Nigerians put it there that I came back. They're asking questions. How do you cope? For instance, a younger person who had the opportunity of working remotely was saying that he or she, I don't know whether, because it's anonymous, so
yes,
they don't know me, I don't know them. She was saying that she wanted to come back and work as a digital nomad, and said she will be paid in dollars, that she heard that if you put your money in the bank, that they won't allow you to take it in the same currency. I had to correct that, and I said, no, if at least the little that I understand about the banking system, you can bring your money in any foreign currency of your choice, and when you want it, they will deliver it to you in that same currency.
They will deliver it to you. The only challenge is that they keep changing the policy. Sometimes you cannot transfer in foreign currency to another. So I cannot transfer a dollar to you.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes,
but I can take my dollars.
Yes.
But
you have to physically take it out and go on. Because my wife used to be able to transfer money between accounts.
Now you can't do that.
We found out that the other day she was asking me to transfer some money. I just found that you couldn't do that because of all these policy changes.
The policies change too often.
Even within the same administration.
Yes.
At the beginning of the year, one administration will tell you, oh, this is how we want it, and 2-3 months down the line, they change it. Yes. So there needs to be consistency to make
because if you are going to make this Japada really, really successful, then the people have to be able to foresee that the present policy will be there in the next 3-4 years.
Yes.
They need for their own planning.
Yes, and then make it easy. Some of the ideas that the central bank has been floating about allowing Nigerians in the diaspora to be able to account here. Yes. That's commendable. But we need to follow that up with, if I decide, for instance, when we're considering where to retire to, if I had gone to Panama, to the Republic of Panama, for instance, they would have made it easy for me to import a vehicle without paying heavy duty on it, because they look at
you. They want to encourage you to come. You are bringing resources.
Because I'm retired. They say, okay, if this guy is retired, he's coming home, he's going to need a car, he's going to need this. All those are little incentives that if we want Nigerians who are overseas to come, we need to encourage them with some of these policies.
And it may even be a car they have been using for 2-3 years, and they want to bring it here.
Yes, you can bring your vehicle, and then some of your personal effects are not subject to too much of taxation or excise duties, unlike what obtains now. So if we do a little bit of that, there are so many Nigerians that I know who want to come back home.
And if more people like you come back home, chances are that one or the other of your children may decide to come. Or if daddy went back and succeeded, then maybe we too can go and try. So those are the kind of things that the government agencies need to be encouraged to do what needs to be done, so that more Nigerians can come. Because time was, when we were in secondary school, Indians were all over this place.
Yes.
But India became better. They returned to India to repair their country.
Yes.
Pakistanis were all over this place.
Yes. Some of them raised money, went to Europe, went to the US. Some of the first wave of Indians who moved to the US, they raised money from Nigeria by being teachers, by being doctors, by medical professionals, and they left here and moved to the US. We can do the same thing, encourage our people. If they see me as I am here, Others are asking me question. Okay, how are you dealing with electricity? Some of the things that I've learned some things, you know, setting up a solar system in the house, having the kind of thing that will give me at least a minimum level of comfort.
Yes,
People are asking, is internet reliable? How can I get access to internet? Those are things that we have learned, and by being here, we can
you give correct answer because you have
Yes.
experienced it.
Yes.
On this note, I'll be bringing this segment to an end. I've been speaking to Mr. Edwin Baiye, former managing director of Daily Times Nigeria. He was away to the US for more than 20 years, never visited Nigeria all that time, but he decided with his wife to relocate back to Nigeria, Japada. And it's a wonderful source of encouragement for me because it means that there is hope for Nigeria and that we can soon begin, if we put the right policies in place, put the right structures in place, clean up our environment.
Yes.
Because the environment is too dirty, really. There's too much filth everywhere, as you said.
Yes.
Clean up our environment, that many more people like Edwin will be returning to Nigeria, and more friends of his may decide to relocate to Nigeria. Edwin, you're welcome.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you very much. Thank you.